Financially raw, real, authentic wisdom with Lourens Oberholzer from Retire Rich and Happy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday morning at 10, and it's time for Financially Raw, where we talk about all things financial. And RAW, for those of you who don't know, stands for Real Authentic Wisdom. So here we say things like it is. We actually discuss it in such a way that everybody can understand. Today in my studio, I've got Warren Turner. And Warren is my special guest today. Thanks, Warren, for coming. And Warren is one of our top not one of our top coaches. Warren is our top coach in the business. So I decided to get him on and have a little bit of a chat with him, his experiences, and also pick his brain. So guys, if you are listening, if you have any questions around financial coaching or any questions for Warren, you are welcome to give us a shout out on the website. We get those messages immediately and we will answer those questions. And also, you're welcome to follow us on Facebook, Retire Rich and Happy. Follow us on YouTube. All of these shows gets put into video, so if you want to see us in the studio chatting to each other, you can watch us on YouTube, Retire Rich and Happy. And then you can also go to our website, www.retirerichandhappy.co.za. So Warren, welcome. Thanks for joining me this morning for our show. Tell the audience, the listeners, a little bit about yourself. You come from a completely different background than what you're in at the moment. So what made you decide to get into this and really become passionate about it?
Well, morning all, and morning Lourens. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, my background mainly is engineering. I had a business for 24 years, the emphasis on had. COVID came around and did a little bit of a Chinese trick on me, and that was the end of that. But luckily, just before the end of my engineering business, I met you in the gym, of all places. Yeah. Those are the good old days when we still went to gym. And I mean, you dropped a little bit of a seed there, talking about finances and financial coaching, and you actually wanted to start this whole thing, although you had been doing it for a while, but it was just bits in here and there and everything. And with what you said, it intrigued me. I always felt like, you know, when we come out of school, we get an education and we work towards that education, and my engineering business was exactly that, engineering. And I was good at that, but when it came from the finance part of it, I lacked a little bit. And I must say, with the coaching, being put on the spot and throwing in the deep end, it taught me a hell of a lot, opened my eyes, and I'm finding it extremely intriguing. But most of all, it's inspiring and keeping me awake at night, which I enjoy the most.
Yeah, it is. It is, especially if you go from one industry to something completely different. Everything that you start new is uncomfortable. It is, you feel like a fish out of water, but you actually pick it up quite quickly. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. But I think when you're coming out of an industry from engineering to finance, and it's so vastly different, because you haven't been, and I'm going to use the word tainted, by other financial aspects.
Yep.
So
the habits that the guys in the industry have.
Exactly. And coming in extremely raw, like this program is, I think you learn a lot more because you're more of a sponge and you soak everything up and you don't have anything to compare to. So you learn a lot faster, and I feel that is where I am at the moment. And with what I've learned and the bits and pieces that I've given in as well, I feel we're moving in leaps and bounds, which is great.
Yeah, I'm very excited about where we're going. So I think the first thing we need to talk about for the listeners who haven't heard about financial coaching, what it means, what it actually entails, I think give them a little bit of a background of what financial coaching is for you, and then I'll chime in as well as we go along. But what is financial coaching?
Well, you know, everybody thinks of financial coaching as just someone that you're just going to be having a chat with about your finances. But it's not that. It's actually taking a person by the hand not literally, but taking a person by the hand and helping them find where their money is going every month and what it's actually doing for them. Because if we can't equate where every rand is going, as you normally say, Lourens, give every rand a job, then things go missing and you just need to be aware of it. And most of the time, it's not the fact that your money is just going somewhere where you don't know. It's the fact that you need accountability of where that money is going. And if you are happy where that money is going, well then fine. But the thing at the end of the day is if you don't have a coach just keeping you accountable to the whole system, then you'll hold yourself accountable for 1 month. The next month it'll only be half, and after that then it's just you back into the same loop again. So that's basically what financial coaching is.
Yeah, I think 80% of what we do and what you do as a financial coach is making people aware of what's actually going on. We always say sometimes you can't see the wood from the trees. And that's what happens. We get so stuck in our problems and our challenges that we very seldom step back a little bit and have a holistic view of just checking what's actually happening. And I think one of the main things that we teach people about budgeting, for example, and we all know that very few people have a proper budget. I think only about 3% of people have a proper budget, planning for foreseen, unforeseen expenses. And one of the big things we teach people regarding budgeting is that budgeting is 80% looking backwards. And that's a complete mindset shift for people to start looking backwards, because we were taught to look forward the whole time. Beginning of the month, this is what my budget is going to look like for this month. And then we get to the end of the month, it was a complete stuff up. And then we don't look back and say why. We just go, okay, we got through that month. Let's do the next one. So when you start coaching a student, what is it that you focus on? What do you do with a student practically when you start coaching them?
Well, our first step is obviously to make you aware of where your money is going. So like you said, 80% backwards. So what we do is we take the month before. We have a look at where your finances are going, every single rand, every single cent. We're not the kind of guys that say, okay, we'll just round off this to that. We make sure that if you're going to be spending on your electricity 4,332 rand and 52 cents, it mustn't be 400 or 4,350 odd bucks. It needs to be exact, because if you round things off, at the end of the month, you can't believe how much money you've rounded off and it's gone. And then what we do is we start looking at plugging those holes where, because you're being held accountable, you yourself are doing the what we call a SEP tool, and you yourself are doing it. So you're putting every single item down, which brings your awareness to where every single rand is going. So what we're doing is just guiding you and making sure that you are aware. And then from there, we can work out your reserve, your fixed costs account and your variable costs, and we can then start working on what you need to spend, and then obviously what your lifestyle is between that and your fixed budget a month.
Yeah, I think what's important there is that the client actually creates his own awareness. We just give them the tools to do that, and then you guide from there. I think that's also, you can tell me a little bit about some experiences you had, but one of the biggest challenges we have with new students is that they want to round off. They are very scared to actually put the exact figures in. If you want to share a few of your experiences of how that happened.
Well, I've had, yes.
We're not allowed to say names,
Yeah,
so
no
all students,
names.
We won't mention your names. Darren?
Yeah, I've had a few that have consistently said one or two things where you ask them a question of saying, okay, so where does your money, where do you think your money goes every single month? You know, how much money do you spend on coffee, for instance? And the one guy was saying, he buys a few cups of coffee a month. And he had a domestic worker that worked for him, and she, her amount that came to at the end of the month was around about 650 rand a month. And his coffee bill a month was just under 1,000 rand. And if I had said that to him before I'd even asked the question, he would never have believed it. But because you're drawing the person's attention, and the difference between the coaching is we're not doing it for you, you are doing it yourself, and that is the difference. So in other words, we are making you aware, like I've said before, of where your money is going. And as soon as he was aware on how much money he's spending just on coffee, just under 1,000 Rand, I mean, he was saying, well, that can't be. But once he draws his statement out, ticks all those boxes, there it was, 975 odd Rand a month just on coffee.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you don't look at the exact figures, and that's why we're so pedantic on that, take your bank statement and basically data capture. Just take every line and capture it into the SEP tool, and SEP tool stands for Strategic Expense Planning. For those of you who don't know all our lingo. So the Strategic Expense Planning, and that's another thing that people need to understand. That tool that we've developed, the Strategic Expense Planning tool, is not a budgeting tool primarily. People look at it as, oh, it's a budgeting tool. It's not. It's an expense tracking tool. And only once you have created a knowledge and awareness of the expenses, then only can you start building a budget going forward. So the first thing is seeing what actually happens. And that's why I always say to people, embrace your true expenses. Because if you don't, and that's where we fall flat, and that's where a coach keeps you accountable and pushes you in the right direction, because we don't want to embrace our true expenses. We want to bullshit ourselves. We're very good at it. If you ask that guy, how much do you spend for coffee, in a figure, he would have said, probably about 200 Rand, 300 Rand. So what would he have done? He would have put on his budget 200 Rand for coffee. Or he wouldn't even have mentioned it in his budget because it's a little bit every day. And then when at the end of the month he's run short, and then he doesn't understand where he runs short, or why he's running short. So that's very important, that people embrace their true expenses. Another thing that I've seen, and you've probably seen this as well, is that when we start working with students, there's quite a bit of fear in them, fear of being judged, that, oh, what if is mine looking worse than other people's? So how do you address that? How do you address it when people are afraid to actually tell you or give you the exact figures because they're afraid of being judged? How do you handle that with clients?
Well, first of all, the first thing that I say to them is nothing is cast in stone. So any information or any way that we're going to move forward, once we've got all the information, we will then put guidelines down to help you to move forward. The fact at the end of the day is, if you have a look at where your surplus or where your shortfalls are, you can then develop a situation of then moving forward and getting out of maybe the negative position that you are at. So if a person feels that they are going to be worse off or someone is going to judge them, it's once you bring everything to the fore, once you bring that picture to the fore, their judgment seems to be less. Because a person, that saying, we make a mountain out of a moleheap, they know they're in trouble, but they make it 10 times worse than what it actually is. But once everything is in front of them, once they've got all the figures in front of them, and you create a plan for them, it's not that bad. But the plan has to be created first. So once that plan is in place, there's no judgment anymore. They've got a clear picture, they've got a path, they've got someone that's going to help them, they've got a neutral person that's going to guide them through, take them literally, like I say, by the hand and guide them through. And then the fear is diminished on every single step that you go through, because you're giving them a positive outline, you're giving them a route to move forward.
Yeah. And I think that's also why it's so important to get an independent coach. A lot of people, they want to have their wife keep them accountable, or a family member keep them accountable. But because there's that personal connection, there's always that chance of being judged. And we don't want to open up completely. Why do people go to a psychiatrist and tell all their dirty secrets to the psychiatrist? Because they feel comfortable enough to talk to a random stranger that aren't personally involved. And that's where the coaching comes in. There's no judgment, because you've seen it all. Yeah. I mean, you've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. You've seen all of it. And you have no dog in the fight. You are not there to judge anybody. You are there to guide. And that usually helps, especially with couples, because let's be honest, there's a couple of things that people fight about, and money is one of the biggest ones. I won't say what the other one is, but there's a few of these things, and money is a big one. And when they have a objective party, third party that guides them, it makes it better in the marriage as well, because they can actually talk to that person and that person can guide them, which helps. You spoke about it most of the time being not as bad as we think it is, and that's that story I always tell about the horror movie. If you watch a horror movie, the monster in the horror movie is always the scariest when you don't see it. When it's running around in the shadows, you just hear it rustle around, and then you get afraid, you get tense. The moment the big reveal happens, and that's why a good horror director keeps the reveal for as long as possible. Because once the reveal happens, so often it's not as scary as you thought it was going to be, and then the tension gets released. And on a positive note, in a horror movie, that's a negative thing when the tension gets released, because otherwise, why are you watching a horror movie? But on the positive note, once you actually face the monster of your cash flow, the monster of your debt, the monster of your financial situation, once you face it with somebody backing you with knowledge, then it's so much easier. It's not as scary as you think it is most of the time.
And I think the reason why people ignore this, the part about their finances, is because next month is another month. I'm going to get my money in again next month. So they think, okay, I didn't make it this month. We'll leave it to next month. And then what do? Next month comes along and you do the same thing. So then you suddenly reach 45, 50. And for those of you that are maybe in their 20s and 30s listening now, you might think, who does that? Everybody does it. You sometimes don't even realize you do it. Until you reach the time where you have to start saying, okay, now I need to make a plan. And I'm not saying it's too late when you're in your 50s. I'm 51 this year. So it's never too late. But the thing is, you just need someone to give you the road to walk on. That's all. And I guess it's like any coach in any realm of life.
Hiring a coach seems expensive. Yeah, if 15,000 Rand a month is expensive to you, then it might be. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. It's not 15,000 Rand a month. All right. So Warren just almost fell off his chair when I said that. So Warren, why? Can people get the information off the internet? And secondly, is it really that expensive to get a coach?
Well, the question, the answer to that is actually quite simple. No, you don't need a coach. you don't. The information from the internet, yes, you can go and get the information. And you can do it all yourself, 100%. But I'm going to pose this question to you. The top golfers in the world, golfers in the world, why do they have a coach?
Tiger Woods. He's been
instance,
playing golf since he was 2.
Yeah.
So he knows what needs to be known about golf. So why does he still have a coach?
Okay, well, I'll answer that question. Obviously, he's very dumb, because he never got it right. So that's why he needs a coach. But no, it's not that. Because the problem is when it comes with everybody, and I mean everybody, it's discipline. It's accountability. And so that's all you want. You might know what you're doing with your money every single month. But are you knowing if that money that you're working with is actually working for you? And I think that's the big thing. So some of us might not be in that position where we've got enough money to just put it into an investment that isn't really paying much interest at the moment, considering the world. But the interest that it is paying can last you and your family and generations after that forever. No, we're not all Bill Gates and we're not all Elon Musk. So the thing is, we need to become accountable for where our money is going, and we need to look at finance differently compared to what we did in the good old days. And when I say the good old days, those are the days where your dad and your dad's dad got a job, worked at the same company for 40, 50 odd years, and then thought they could retire. And we are seeing now that they can't. You have to use your money in different ways. You cannot just rely on one item to see you through.
Yes, and the big thing as well that I see is that knowing doing gap. You can go read. There's books upon books upon books about financial and personal finance and strategies and investment strategies and all of these things. And you can get all the theoretical knowledge. But what I see as a big problem is that knowing doing gap, is that implementation of that knowledge. I mean, we all hear knowledge is power, but it's actually the implementation of knowledge that is power. So all of these financial gurus, the Robert Kiyosaki's, the Susie Ormans, all of these guys, they share their information, they share the knowledge. But where I feel personally they lack is the implementation of that knowledge. So they will explain to you how to invest in assets and build passive income, but they don't say, well, let's have a look at where you are now. Let's see what needs to happen first. They just start talking, Robert Kiyosaki, about investing in property, investing in assets. But what about your debt? What about the credit card? What about you battling every month to just get by this month? That is not addressed. What about your risk, for example? So now you start building this fantastic investment portfolio, but you drive and a bus drives over you and now you're paralyzed from the neck down. What happens to this whole plan of yours? So it's that knowing doing gap, is the practical implementation of it that is where the coach comes in. It is helping you to practically do it. And I think that is where we are quite unique, in the sense that we will give you the knowledge, but we also will tell you exactly what step to take next. Because what's the starting point? That's usually where people battle.
And I think you actually hit the nail on the head by saying we will tell you. We're not going to do it for you, because that is the most important part here. Right in the beginning of your Zoom, we will help those who want to help themselves. We cannot do it for you, because you are the one earning the money, you're the one spending the money. We can only just show you. But the most important part about this is obviously just you saying, yes, I want to look at it. And that's step number one, and that's the biggest step. Because once you've said that, then we can start moving forward. But going back to when I had my own business, I didn't even think of the fact that, you always think that your business is the asset. But no, your business isn't the asset. You are the asset. Because without the knowledge that you've gained, without working through steps that somebody can help you with, get rid of your debt, make sure that your risk portfolio is in place. I didn't even think of these steps, and then start moving forward into creating a reserve account, then moving into a graduate scenario where we can start developing a capital to then invest and then become an investor. Without those steps in place and joining the dots correctly, 99% of people fail out because they just think, well, I've got some spare money, I'll just put this into this investment. But when something goes wrong, then they draw the money out of the investment again to pay for the problem that has just happened, and that's where we fail. So if you don't start at the bottom, start learning the right steps to take first, you're never going to get there. It's just going to be a back and forth. Yes, you've tried. There's no harm in you trying. Kudos to you, 10 out of 10 for trying. But you can be trying to build a house all year long, your whole life, but if you don't build the foundation correctly, that house will never ever stand.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that is what's the big differentiator is, yes, the internet. I mean, we live in an age where you literally can get access to any information and knowledge on anything at the press of a button. We are living in the golden age when it comes to education and information. I saw a little clip from Elon Musk the other day that says he doesn't see any point in people going to college, because anything you want to learn, you can teach yourself by going onto the internet, going onto YouTube, etc., etc. Where I think we are a little bit more unique is when it comes to the practical implementation of that knowledge. And that you can't get on the internet, because the internet is an impersonal hub of knowledge, where a coach is a personal hub of knowledge and implementation and practical tips and tools. So the coach looks at your circumstance, because your circumstances is not the same as the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. And that's the difference. All the information on the internet is focused on a general knowledge, where the coaching takes you determines where you are now and then starts plotting a course to where you want to be. Because you can say, listen, I want to go on holiday to Cape Town. But if you have no idea of where you are at the moment, how do you plot a course? If I blindfold you, drive you around for 4 hours, and then drop you at a place that you don't know where the hell you are and say, well, you need to get to Cape Town. How do you know where to go in the first place? And that is where the coaching comes in. We first determine where you are and then start plotting the course to where you want to be. Where if you just go on the internet, you basically, they give you information without knowing where you are. So they can't plot a proper course. The second part is about hiring a coach, and if that seems expensive. So I always say to people, you know what? Actually, the coach doesn't cost you anything. So I think you can expand on that. Why doesn't the coaching cost people anything? Why is it free, basically?
Free, yes, free. Well, the reason why we say it really won't cost you anything is because the amount of money that slips through one's bank account on a monthly basis, and when I say slips through, I mean you sometimes look at what one bank charges on bank charges alone compared to another bank is exorbitant. Some banks are 800, 1,000, 1,200 rand a month. Just by moving your bank across to or your bank account to a different bank, you can save 500, 600, 700 rand a month. And at student level, it starts at $4.99. So already just by doing that, you've literally paid for your coaching. We go out and we go to a shop and we go buy whatever we need to buy. But when we're walking up and down the aisles, we spend much more than what we should. Why? Because we don't have a list in front of us. We just walk past this and we say, okay, yeah, I think we need this and we need that. So when you become accountable to the money that you're spending every single month, and you know that is your budget for the month, you're not going to do that. So in turn, that money that we are saving you by holding you accountable, you're paying for it. It gets paid by itself. So yes, you are paying it, but you're paying it through the money that you were wasting every single month before. Yeah. So then theoretically it is actually free.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've done some research, and on average, the typical middle to upper middle class family in the world, I would think, overspends by at least 10%. Now, just look at your own personal circumstances. If you're earning 30,000 Rand a month, that means there is 3,000 Rand a month in your budget that you cannot account for. And that's the first thing that happens is we make you accountable for that money. We keep that money in your portfolio and instead of letting it slip through the cracks. And that 3,000 Rand is 6 times what the coaching is going to cost you. So it is never ever going to cost you more than what you've actually gained from there. We've not once had a student, guys, and we work with people earning from 5 or 7 or 10,000 Rand a month all the way up to hundreds of thousands Rands a month. And not once have we not saved those people more money, 2, 3, 4 times more than what the coaching is actually costing them. So yes, in effect, it doesn't cost you anything. But it's like anything in the world. You first have to give something up to get the gain. Look at any business, for example. When things get tight, what do businesses do? They stop advertising. They stop spending money on marketing. And then what happens? The business gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and then they say it's the economy. It is we're in a tough economy. It's not. You have to spend the advertising rand to get the return. And that's the same here. You have to spend something to get the knowledge to improve your situation. And the next topic we're going to talk about is who needs a coach. So Warren, in your opinion and with the people that you've spoken to and worked with, who needs a coach?
Okay, my answer is every single one of you guys.
That earns an income.
That earns an income for sure. And seriously, exactly that. Because there's not many people that have actually been taught what to do with money. We know how to earn money, but we don't really know what to do with it. When I say we don't know, yes, we have a general idea. Okay, so let's take our spare bucks, we put it into a house and we get a rent from it. And you came up with an app the other day that shows you exactly what the value will be once you put that money into a house. Because we just look at the broad strokes. this house has cost us $1 million. It's going to be around about 10 to 12,000 rand a month on the bond. If we can get 15,000 rand a month on rent, then we're cruising at 3,000 rand. But there's other aspects to it, and those aspects add up, and then it's more than 15,000. So you've bought this property, this asset, but you're paying in on a monthly basis. And that's where, as a coach, from what we are doing is different. We believe that when you put money into an asset, that asset must pay you from day one.
Have a positive cash flow.
Must have a positive cash flow. If it doesn't have a positive cash flow, then it's not worth the money being put in.
It's basically not an asset yet.
No, because it's not growing. You are still being sucked dry by your own asset that you put money into. So those are the little differences on having someone look out from over your shoulder from a neutral perspective, and like you said earlier on, can see the wood for the trees. I believe it's everyone. It's got nothing to do with how much money you earn. A lot of people that earn big money at the end of a month have big problems. Those that earn little money have less problems. So everything works on scale. And just because the guy's driving a Ferrari doesn't mean it's paid off. They could be in more serious debt than a person earning 20,000 rand a month.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just, again, where your money is going and what it's doing for you.
Yeah, I think what's important with that is there's two things with what you're talking about, assets, and that's actually the end goal that we're working towards. So student level, undergraduate level, graduate level is all building the foundation to get to investor level, because that's where you want to be, building assets that generate income. And I think there's two things there that's the important one. The first one you mentioned, the fact that you have to, it's not an asset if it's taking money out of your pocket. It's only an asset when it's putting money into your pocket. So many people, and property is the most well known. So let's talk about property. People invest in property, but the property is costing them 2,000 rand more than what is generating. And then they tell themselves, no, but it's okay. I'm investing in the property over time because eventually it will give me an income, it will be an asset, but it's not an asset. So it actually slows your momentum. It's not building your momentum. It's not gaining momentum going forward. So you want to get an asset that as quickly as possible starts generating a positive cash flow. So that's the first thing. The second thing is then, what do you do with that positive cash flow? And that is where people without a coach, without a strategy, also falls flat and don't build momentum. Because what happens typically, and for those of the listeners who have second properties or assets that generate income, I can promise you 99% of you will relate to this. The rental income, all the income that comes from that property, what happens? It goes into your account like any of the other money, your salary, your commission, your business income. It goes into the account and all your expenses gets paid from there. So it just becomes this one blurry pool of income, where what we teach is that you need to define every piece of income. So that income shouldn't go into your normal account, your check account. It must go somewhere, we call it your free bucks account, where it can build assets again. And once you start doing that, you start building momentum instead of just putting it into one pot. And then people very slowly, they have to save up to buy a second property, and then another 5 years, and then another 5 years. Because once you split it, the first property might take 5 years. The second property might only take 2 years. The next 2 might take a year. And so you start building that momentum. And that's where people fall flat. They don't build that momentum.
Exactly.
All right. So the next question, you had another point that you wanted to chat about. I just want to see here quickly. Oh, so what is the coach's goal? So what is it that we are working towards for people? We have 4 minutes left, and then we have to say goodbye again. Goodness gracious, it goes fast. Okay, so what is the goal? Why do people get involved in coaching? We've discussed that. What is the goal of the coaching? What is the coach's goal with their students?
Well, to improve your swing.
Yeah.
And that's from a golfer's aspect.
Keep your head down.
Keep your head down and improve your swing. And to be honest with you, that's what we are trying to do. You know, when we speak to you right in the beginning, we actually ask you, when is your breakout point? And our breakout point is when you are financially secure, which in other words means you can actually retire. But retirement has changed nowadays. It's got nothing to do with age. It's got everything to do with how much spare cash you are getting in over and above what you are earning, and that money must when that money equates to the amount that you're earning on a monthly basis, well then theoretically you are free. You can then decide then where you want to be, how you want to work, if you still want to carry on doing what you're doing now. So that's what we call our breakout point, and we generally say that we can do that within 10 years. It also depends on your commitment. So our goal is to make you reach that breakout point. Now again, we can only guide you. We can only put you on the path that we think will get you there the fastest. And with us working together, if we can work hand in glove, we know we can make it. So, and once with the few people that we are working with at the moment, and the strides that we see people make when they are committed, you can actually see the stress relieve them. And to be honest with you, that's my goal. The more people I can help, it just makes me feel like a better person. I'm not just there giving advice and hoping a person will do it. We speak to one another every single month. We have a chat. We see where that person is at. We see where their next step is going to be. We put that carrot in front of them. The bigger the carrot, obviously, the more they'll want to strive forward. And that's the best part about this job. It's I'm not really going to call it a job, because the thing is, it just makes me happy when somebody else reaches their goal faster than what we expected it to be.
Give before we end, we've run out of time again. If you want to give the listeners maybe one of your success stories, something that again, we're not allowed to say the name, so but yeah, tell us a little bit about the differences that this has made to people's life.
Well, I've had one or two clients now that have really moved forward in the way of well, this one guy really stands out simply because he had the money, he wasn't spending the money, but he had his money all over the place. And it took me around about 4 months for him to actually understand what our concept is and what we are doing. Because I think a lot of people are a little bit tentative just to start moving money around because they feel they are out of control. And again, we're not working with your money. All we're doing is we're guiding you. And once the penny dropped with this guy, he moved from, luckily he didn't have debt really, he moved from an undergraduate level, which would generally take to build his reserve account at that time, which was sitting just over the 200,000 Rand, he moved it within 3 months.
Sure.
So he moved from an undergraduate to a graduate, which he'll be now at the end of this month. And now he's starting to look at the investment portfolio. We're starting to look at what he's going to invest in, start building that capital. And by the looks of things, the way he's working now, we should have his first investment within about a year and a half,
Sure.
which he can create his first income generating asset. So from a person that did nothing in 3 months, just messing around, and I'm trying, the penny dropped, boom, within 2 months he made it.
Yeah.
Then I had another guy that was in quite a bit of debt, and all we did was just move things around again. You know, sometimes people have got money sitting there, but they actually don't know.
They don't
it's not
put the
doing
two
anything
together.
for them. And with getting a structure in place, he got rid of his debt within, I think it was 4 or 5 months. He got rid of all his debt, and now he's I think a few bucks short of sorting out his reserve account, and he too will then move to graduate.
Sure.
So it's just again having a neutral eye. And also, I mean, these guys held themselves accountable.
Yeah.
I mean, what they said they were going to do, they did every single month. And they're now reaping the benefit at the end of the day.
That's the big thing. Be your word. I mean, that's one of our big mottos in our business as well. Be your word. And that's the same from a student. Once they say, I'm going to do something, and they actually implement it, things happen very, very quickly. Actually, more often than not, it's faster than we actually think it was going to be. Warren, we've run out of time. It was awesome having you here. We will definitely have you back again, because I think we still have about 15 hours of chatting to do about coaching. So again, guys, if you want to follow us, you're welcome to follow us on Facebook, Retire Rich and Happy. You can follow us on YouTube, watch these videos again, also Retire Rich and Happy, and then go to our website, retirerichandhappy.co.za. If you want to find out more about how the coaching works, you are welcome to go to our website, register for the Zoom presentation for coaching. Just press on the coaching tab at the top and a link will be sent to you. There's no obligation to view that presentation. You can just pop on, have a look and see if it resonates with you. Guys, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Warren, thank you for being here, giving up some of your time to share with us, and I hope to see you again soon.
It'll definitely be my pleasure. I must say this is the first time on radio. I had a shave and everything, which I obviously didn't have to. But I will tell you this, it's great to speak like this, and hopefully the word just spreads to those that, if you need it or you don't, it is something that can definitely help you move forward.
Thanks, Warren. And guys, have a great week and a great weekend.
Financially raw, real, authentic wisdom with Lourens Oberholzer from Retire Rich and Happy.